gonna, you know, because Woody's kind of directed every bit of this, he's about to be gone. So you may get somebody else in there who has a completely different mindset as to what process we need to follow.
Now, I could understand the process, but whoever the executive is, they have to go whatever the commission wants to do.
The commission's not gonna take any leadership. I mean, every meeting we've ever had, Woody's been the one there talking, he's come up with formulas, and he's just hand feeding this stuff to the commission. And as of now, they've just gone along with whatever he, so.
Well, you said you want to me.
That may not be why, but I know that, he told me the other day, he said, I'm done. He said,
Yeah.
I'm over these meetings and everything, I'm just kind of ready. So now, Tony, when somebody's elected, when will they take office?
September 1st. All right, it's 6 o'clock. We wouldn't get started. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand. I'd like to ask Mr. Brown to give the invocation. And Mr. Griffiths to lead the pledge to the flag.
Thank you, Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, first I'd like for us to bow our heads and take a moment of silence in memory of our former councilwoman, Sarah Humphrey, who was laid to rest today, please. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you again with grateful hearts. Thank you for the opportunity to be here as a body to do the business of Kingston. We ask that you be with the Humphreys family as they go through these tragic times. Be with Becky and her brother. And we just thank you for people like Miss Sarah, who made an impact on the citizens of Kingston and this council. Be with us, and lead us, and guide us, and direct us, and we'll give you praise every day.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Is there anyone wishing to address the council in this work session tonight? Yes, sir. Would you come up to the microphone and state your name and address?
Good evening. My name's Scott O'Rourke. I live at 129 Woody Meadow Drive. That's in Riverbend Estates, just north of the interstate off Longville. I'm here tonight to request sewer service for Riverbend Estates, if at all possible. I live in my home. I've been living there since 2005 with my wife and 2 children. There are over 200 homes in our neighborhood. Since 2005, I've had to replace the septic system now twice. I'm getting ready to do the last one. I don't have any more room. So I'm requesting sewer service to my neighborhood because we're all on the same boat here in East Tennessee. We got clay, and it just doesn't percolate very well. I talked with Mr. Will Luke. I don't know if y'all know him or not. He's an environmental scientist out of Knoxville, and he said that he's been out to my neighborhood several times over the past 5 years. And he stated that if the neighborhood would be planned by today's standards, it wouldn't have been built because it would require sewer services. I also spoke with Mr. Kevin Hamilton to the water department. In order to put in my new field lines, I need to move the water line. So that's in progress now, and he recommended I come here tonight to get some support if possible for adding some sewer. The cost for me so far, other than the likelihood of not being able to keep my home, I've spent over $40,000 on sewer. Just septic tanks, septic field lines, and then remediation when the septic system back to the house. I need an advocate somehow to get sewer service, and that's why I'm here tonight.
Okay. We'll do some looking into, because that's going to be a pretty good sized project.
Yeah. I don't know how else to do it but to start.
Right. And it's been on our radar to get sewer to Riverbend for quite a while. So
Our sewer line stops where?
it now stops at Pickett Place, correct? And we talked about running the sewer all the way out to, I guess, Casey's, is it now?
Yeah, on the corner there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've looked at it. I mean, obviously, you're looking at a very big ticket project. But there has been, you know, some demand over the years. We've heard from a few people out there. I think, you know, the big questions, is funding it. And, you know, if that's the direction council wants to go, and then, you know, getting buy-in for the community. I think that's, you know, obviously it would make economic sense to run sewer out there and get 2 or 3 people to hook up to it. But, you know, then that raises a bigger question, which Kevin and I have talked about a lot, is the issue of, you know, in the city, if we run sewer, if sewer is available, you pay for it whether you use it or not, utilize it or not. We've never had that issue come up outside the city. That would be another, I think, consideration that we would have to weigh. But, you know, it's not a quick fix, but it does seem like there's more and more, it comes up more and more often. So I imagine, like you said, you're not the only one having those problems. So, I mean, most of those houses were built at the same time. I would suspect that a lot of people out there are having trouble. So definitely something I think that we ought to take a deeper look at.
Mr. O'Rourke, go ahead.
That district isn't lorded over anyone yet, is it?
No, we have water. We have water
It's our
there,
water.
so we have, it's ours to provide. We just,
And you understand what he's saying, if we did decide to run sewer out there, people would be charged for it, whether they connect to it or not.
Okay, well, I don't know the ins and outs of it.
So that's what he's talking about, the kind of, people would maybe get pretty angry over that if the best thing to do is to, you know, gauge your neighbors. Because if we ran sewer down that street, then they would be getting a bill.
Okay. How would I do something like that? Is there
Well,
a formalized process?
I think that's something we'd probably need to do, to poll the entire community out there and see how much interest there is in the sewer project, and then go from there. This, I know you're probably still having an issue, but this is not gonna be something gonna be fixed overnight. It may take a year or so to get, or maybe even longer.
Well, we're not comfortable with selling our problems, so we're gonna stay in the home until we can't. But, I mean, I'd rather stay in it, obviously.
Right, okay, so I think probably what we end up doing is Dave, you and Kevin will get together and maybe, I don't know if we could write a letter and have them comment back to us. And
well, I know you don't have a homeowners association out there, but do you have any kind of neighborhood communication group or anything, any way of?
Not really any kind of formalized group
Yeah,
at all.
because you know, that would help if there was a way to kind of poll your neighbors. But we can certainly send a letter out and see if we get feedback, and then from there kind of gauge what the interest might be. So,
I
you know,
think
we
so,
don't have
too.
a problem doing that.
Now, on that, people who is now actually hooked up to it, are they charged the same rate as someone's hooked up to it? Exact same thing?
Not only that, if you're not hooked up to it, you have to pay for it, and then if your septic system fails, the state is gonna force you to connect to it.
I didn't know there's a flat fee for if you wasn't hooked up or not, so,
it'd be just like a regular sewer cost.
okay, thanks.
We'll look into it and see what we can get done, because it's been kicked around by this council for several years.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time.
All right,
I
no problem.
appreciate it.
All right.
You know, that, while we're on the subject, just briefly, that raises an issue that we've talked about in other areas. It's new territory for us, as we are expanding sewer more and more outside the city into different pockets, is that notion that, you know, just like in the city, can we enforce that?
I think it's not, Mr. Attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a state law, is it not?
We can do it. It's, you know, but there will be just, and I bring this up just to prepare you all, there will be kickback as we start doing that from people who say, why is the city of Kingston, you know, we're just going to have to be prepared for that, and there will be some people that try to buck it. But yes, that is rooted in state law, so.
Okay. All right, so we'll go to number 4, is continuing discussion of request for sewer service on Schubert Street.
So just want to give you an update on that, and Kevin's here. He can talk a little more. I know, you know, as you know, this came up a month or two ago.
The gentleman that has the house, the vacant lot, was wanting sewer, Mr. Robbins. And, we talked there again, kind of trying to poll the residents on that street, try to get an idea of what demand might be, before we just come in and put sewer in. And as we've talked about, mandating a bill for people. So Kevin can give you some input on the conversations he's had with some folks up there, and Mr. Robbins as well. So
we sent letters out, everyone, and all I got back is 3 telephone calls. 2 was absolutely yes, they wanted it. Went through the whole process with them. They were all understanding. They all wanted it. 1 was sort of iffy. He was supposed to have got back with me by the end of the month. He hadn't got back. Received a telephone call from a lady today who hopes to be closing on a piece of property up there 1st of July. Sort of went through it with her. She's another one that says yes, but out of all the letters that we sent, I've only had four conversations, and like I say, 3 of them I would say was a yes, and the other one was iffy, but he never said no either. And I got his point. It was rental properties for him, so he said he just wasn't for sure if he wanted to absorb that cost, but he did understand that if we went with it, that eventually that the state would mandate him if he ever had field line problems, and so like I say, he seemed to be okay, but he just never gave a definite answer either way.
We've got, what, 13?
That's what I was gonna ask.
I think that's correct, 13.
County 13 houses.
One of the conversations we had with Mr. Robbins, if we didn't want to move on running it down the whole street, was, the thought that we've done with other people is they pay for the material, we provide the labor, if we wanted to just run it just to his property. And what was his feedback on that?
He was okay with that if that's what needed to be done, but his comments is he said, I would prefer that if the city wanted to run the whole street that they do it. So if that was his last resort in order to get his building put in that he wanted it, I think he was gonna go with that.
And what was the estimate?
Let me see if I've got that right here, Stephanie.
I'm so sorry, I should.
No, you're fine.
6,000 something?
Yeah, I think I was gonna say 7, I believe is what it was for total.
What about the right of ways? We got a right of way up through there?
Yeah, I believe we do. I know the water's on one side, but I think we can hold off enough on the other side that we can put it across, and put it on the opposite side of the road and be fine.
If we do it, my opinion, we do it all.
I agree.
I don't want to come back and let's get it done, strawed, and then somebody else come back, well, I've decided I wanted the next one, and we're back up there to the very next house and to the next house.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think, just sort of like the deal with the Orchard Road. We put that in, and now we've seen people, hey, when are we gonna get it? So I would agree with you.
I would too.
If we was gonna do it, I think we just about to
Yeah.
take it off.
So we want to just put this on the agenda for Tuesday night, or?
I'm good with that if you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Gabe. Continuing discussion of potential ARPA expenditures, Mr. City Manager.
So you have a memo in your packet that we've been working on at the departmental level, just trying to look at our pots of money and what some potential needs that we could address. And I just wanted to bring this to you to kind of give you an idea where our thought process is, and also just resume the conversation. We have tried, we've looked, obviously we have capital plans for all departments, and there's no way we can address everything, but trying to look at the departments and what are some of the needs, some of the higher priority needs that they have that we could meet that might fall within the framework of this, within the scope of money. So we've outlined that for you, and then also on the utility side, which is different. But we've outlined several projects that Kevin has mapped out, and he's done a great job working to identify those. And as you can see, we still have a lot of money there that those don't cover, which is a good thing, because we're also looking at bigger ticket items like valve replacement, line and sewer lines, things like that. But, you know, a lot of these on the water side, you see a lot of turbine, motor replacements, things like that, are all very old. And, you know, these are just things that have been out of sight, out of mind for a long time. So this, as you see, you know, this has given us a way of really catching up with a lot of utility maintenance and still leaving the door open to more work. So wanted to give you those ideas. I know that you guys are going to have ideas of your own. And what I'd really like to do, I'm not asking for any of this to be approved right now, but I do think we need to move in that direction, particularly on the utility side. On the direct appropriation, as you know, we have half of that now. We'll have the other half this fall. On the utility side, there's an application process, and we've got to go through that, and there's procurement processes that we have to follow, and then you know about the supply chain issues. So better that process starts sooner rather than later. So what I'd like to recommend is, you know, whether it be, you know, at next month's workshop or you set a standalone workshop on it, that we get together pretty soon to start checking off some of these that we can get approval on, so we can get some of these processes going. So I just want to put it on your table. I mean, obviously it's up to you all at what pace we move on this, but it's something we need to do, in my opinion, sooner rather than later.
Well, one thing I'm thinking is the appropriations that you have for the city side, we can hold back for just a little while. Some of the stuff on the utilities, why can't we go ahead and put it on the agenda and pass it for Tuesday night and get it started?
That would be preferable. Like I said, on the city, on the direct appropriation, we don't have all the money yet. There's no application. Once we get it, we can spend it. On the utility side, because we do have to apply, and we don't know, you know, they promise quick turnarounds on these approvals, but you know how things get log jammed. So yeah, if we could move forward at least on these, you know, this $754,000, because it's not going to be an overnight application process. We're going to have to start that. So
Has anybody seen any issues with that?
For the 754?
Yeah, for the water stuff.
Would this be something that these engineers we've hired have got to be involved in that?
yeah, and they've helped us some on these, and also working on some of the other projects that we'll be looking at. But yeah, they'll be helping us as we go into the.
So will it be a percentage of the 754 that they'll be charging?
No, their fees come out, well, I mean, it's out of the overall. We'll need them for other stuff, but, you know, we've.
And will all of these things, for instance, the pumps and stuff, all of that will qualify for the state the extra state money and the extra county money?
The state money is what that, the state and county money are what that 1.1 million is. And then, of course, our matches on that too. We'll have to apply. We'll have to send in applications. Everything in there should fit. I mean, based on us and the consultants we're using, you know, we don't see any problems. But ultimately, the state, you know, if there's something on there they don't like, they're going to kick it back. But again, that's, you know.
So we would have to get that pre-approved before
Yeah.
we spend the money.
Right, and
Yeah.
that's kind of, we'll go ahead and get that ball
I'm
rolling.
still worried about county money, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we'll see when we get that. But yeah, the biggest thing with the state is, you know, we'll apply, they approve it, and then we expend the funds, and then we get
How
reimbursed.
much have we got, the half of it that we got, how much of that have we got already?
We have half of the direct appropriation, which is, you know, the total direct appropriation we got was 1.7 million. So we've received half of that.
So the $750,000 would all be covered if we didn't get any extra state money or any extra county money?
Now, the 754,000 that we're proposing to apply for would all come out of the state money. So,
Like I said, if we did not get approval, if all this stuff is gonna be on our list anyway,
yeah,
we could spend what we've got
yeah. If the
without approval, that's where I'm
yes,
coming from.
yes. If the state came back and turned down every bit of that, we'd have other options to look at funding it. But
And we don't have to wait for the county to apply for TDEP money, right?
No.
No.
We just would get a larger portion.
yes, correct. And it could be, you know, that we have, because we have state money. We
I
know.
don't see the county, the reason I'm worried about the county, I don't see the county approving anything until next year.
Yeah, Yeah, well,
It's gotta be
September.
appropriated by December, doesn't it?
yeah,
Who's gonna do that? You're fixing to have a new county commission.
yeah,
I don't know who the ball carrier is.
I have a scary feeling that everything county related is gonna go back to square one September 1st. But we have, we know we'll at least have, the state money. And so if the state approves all of this, then we'll have the balance of that, and then if we ever get the county money, we'll have that to spend as well. But, we're gonna apply to TDEC, if you authorize it, we'll apply to TDEC for all of these projects, and we can submit multiple applications, so
Okay.
if other things come up, it's not like it's a one-time deal, so.
My question is, when you all vote on the second reading for the budget next week, do you all want this on there so it's already appropriated? I mean, cause really all I have to do is break that down into line items in that function that we were gonna just have ARP
Well,
stuff on.
we'll have to, obviously nothing is gonna be expended this fiscal year. Like I said, once we apply to TDEC, they say there'll be a quick turnaround, but it could be 6 months. Hope not, but,
That may be quick to them.
yeah, so once we get
could
that.
amend it later either way.
Budget amendment.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fine too.
Cause once what we could do, once we get the approval from TDEC, we'll know, what they approved, whether they approved all this or they approved some of them, and then we'll know how much to amend it,
Okay.
and we'll expend those funds, and then we'll get them back.
Yeah, that'll
so.
work.
If they went in and weren't gonna do anything with the GIS stuff,
Then we'd have to
we'll do
change that.
something for the pumps and motor replacement.
Right.
Okay.
So basically, all we would need next week is just permission to start.
Permission to
putting the
start, right.
application together.
Yeah. Okay.
Kevin, do you have anything on that?
No,
All right, number 6, discussion of awarding bids for resurfacing the running track and replacement of the community center flooring. We have 2 bidders, correct?
We do, we have, one bidder for each. We did have one, did have a second bid on the flooring, but it was not, submitted in the correct way, so we had to discount it. But you have, 2 bidders, we think 2 good bids. As you see in here, as far as the track resurfacing, Competition Athletic Services was the only bidder, and their bid came in, their base bid for the track itself was $139,990. He also will put in an option, if we wanted to resurface what we call the field event areas, the shot put, and, the different things that are also paved within. If we wanted to resurface those as well, he would do that for an extra $12,560, but that would be on us, to do that. So that's just pretty much in there for your information to do with what you want. On the flooring, Garrett and Sons, flooring was the only qualified bidder, and their bid came in at $122,158. So, we wanna bring both of these to you for your consideration, and if you so approve, then both will be ready to move forward.
Okay.
And 30,000 for demo and disposal.
So I guess a question would be on the track is, do we want to add in the field event area?
I do.
Okay.
My opinion on that is I don't wanna go out there and have this part look brand new, and then we come right back and they say, well, we could have all the field and track events with the
But-
exception of
Okay. I
what
just
y'all
wanted-
didn't do.
I
Why
just
didn't you
wanted to
do it
make
when you was
sure.
here?
I want to do it that way.
I mean, that'd be a total of what, 152, 153,000,
Yeah.
It's only $12,000.
$12,000 more
Might as well
to do it
do it
while it's
right.
there.
So we'll
And that's
add-
coming from borrowed money anyway that we've already
Yeah,
got.
it's already appropriated and everything, so we'll add that to the agenda, because we're just with 2 bids, no one to pick, and also add that event area as one of them also.
And that just increases the amount that we set aside for the $2,000, because we set aside 150, didn't we?
Well, we
Originally set aside $500,000 because we were gonna
Dropped
do
it
the
to
whole
150.
thing. So, yeah,
Yeah,
so we'll
we're
still be
back
within that.
$2,000 more than,
I think we're still got a little bit to cover it though.
Yeah.
It should be good.
Inflation.
Discussion of filling 2 expired term seats on the Park and Rec Commission.
what are we doing the other one too? The floors?
Yeah, we've added both of them,
Okay.
since there were just 2 of them. or one bid of each. So that's with, Ms. Jackson and Ms. Becky's not here, so.
I had one question.
Mhm.
On the flooring, I know we said we was gonna do the, community center, the ceiling in-house. Is this gonna be done at the same time? Have we-
Probably before,
Okay.
I would say, that way, any touch-up, paint, anything we want, painting or anything like that, we'll probably do before we put the new flooring down, so.
Yeah, well, that would be, I was just checking because
Yeah.
it needs it bad.
Yes, I agree.
So on the park and rec board, we've got just 2 applications, is that correct?
And 3 openings.
And 3 openings?
We get that resignation.
And then one that was a resignation that I'm assuming we're gonna appoint.
Yes,
Mayor appoints. and
I
we do-
appointed,
I've got a question on these.
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't seem right. 3 months ago, we had park and rec applications. And we voted for 1 or maybe 2 out of a group of
Mhm.
people. And now that we've just forgotten about those people who put in before. And now we've re-advertised, so are those people mad and are not interested anymore? Or have we reached out to them? It would seem to me that if we were that close together, that at least we would send it back to the ones that asked, or not just Parks and Rec, any appointment, same thing the library board that's fixing to come up, to include those people in there and at least reach out to them and say, you
were
were
up before,
selected.
are you still interested?
We're telling you that, thank you for coming back.
Keep them on file for a year.
Or, yeah,
That way
have some
you
kind of
come
thing that
back
they're
and say,
active.
These 2 here were appointed, and we're gonna keep you on here for a year in case we have more openings,
Yeah.
and you'll be first one up.
Because I know that one of these people going off is the Optimus Club representative, which will leave them without anybody.
Mhm.
And one that we didn't vote on, that didn't give enough votes the last time, was the reason that some didn't want to vote for him was cause they didn't recommend them from the Parks and Rec, because
There've been 2
there was gonna
copies.
be 2 Optimus Club members on the board. So now there's not got any, and Donnie Morgan's who I'm talking about, he was out there wanting to serve and didn't get it. So now then we just bypassed, I think him, and the other one was, well, we got the Hendricks girl.
Yeah.
Townsend,
Mhm.
Linda Townsend, Morgan, that's just, come to the top of my head.
Well, Mayor, you've got a list of people to pick through.
Yeah, I know.
Pick from.
We can certainly start reaching out to, it's not always that we have appointments that close, but, we can start keeping a file, that's not a problem at all.
If we
But
put
of
this
these
off
two-
till we approach those others and let the mayor appoint whoever he wants to?
Well, we have one that's, of the council picks, one is a current member
Reappointment.
who wants to stay on. The other one is a new, applicant, but, so, you could at least fill one of them, however y'all wanna do it.
Well,
I don't know.
the one that's on there now, he's the president of the Century Club, and he's the coach of the soccer team. And I believe the way the code reads is that on a unexpired term, they continue to serve until they're not reappointed, but they continue to serve until we appoint somebody.
Right.
So, it wouldn't be like you take him off if we put it off.
Yeah, I don't see a problem in reaching out to the other ones that we had before to see if they were
You may
interested.
reach out to one of them and have one out of that group, I don't know, But I just hate to see us to lose a pool of people who express interest and then don't even give them, but anyway, that's just my thinking. I'm for.
I
I'm for
don't have an issue. I don't have an issue with that because usually in July they don't even have a meeting anyways. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Because it's July 4th week, so it's not going to hurt to put it off until July on that. Anybody got any issues with that? All right, that's you. Discuss filling 2 unexpired terms seats on the library board.
Okay, before we discuss that, I'd like to talk about the meeting we had, last library board meeting, if I'm allowed to do that. Okay. Michelle came over, she was a big help. We, talked about the audit stuff, about better communication, and we lost 2 members. We had to, rearrange some, positions in the treasurer and that stuff. And I was gonna let Michelle, if she didn't care, to maybe explain anything that needs to be explained, cause I know you're good at that. Yeah. Not better than me.
Well, basically, I felt like there was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of confusion with the board members. They kind of described to me as like being the redheaded stepchild of the city. I assured them that we were not making accusations of wrongdoing, nor was our intent to personally attack someone. That we had intentions to help the library board and staff follow the proper procedures of handling money, and that must be dealt with, and that I had created a daily cash report, and I've helped Barbara with that, and that seems to be working, and they can report what money they're bringing in each day instead of just bringing us a handful of money and us not knowing. I also let them know that once the auditors got done going through the records and it was determined how much the money was left in their donations, that I would reserve that money aside, and they would have the full decision making on how they wanted to spend their donations, and we would just bring an amendment to council to amend just like any other department. My goal was to form a good relationship with them and assure them that, you know, as the finance department, we were just handling the funds of the library in compliance with all the governmental accounting rules, and that we would facilitate with transparency, integrity, and reliability. I felt like the meeting was a great success, and they brought me a check for $58,055. It's still yet to be determined how much is the city's money and how much is belongs to the library in their donation line item. But I do feel that this was a step forward in making a better relationship with them, and you know, it's better than what we've had in the past. So I have talked to Barbara about their position as the library, and they are a level 3 library, and actually they're supposed to have a full-time director, at least 2 full-time staff members, and full-time clerks, which those can be one and the same, but they only have Barbara and another full-time, and the rest are part-time. And to add another full-time person would be $60,000, because we did kind of calculate that. So they kind of are, they struggle with staffing, I feel like, you know. But they've gotten a grant they're going to apply for, and I know that you're probably going to talk about that. And they've got to have 50% of that money. I think she said around 10 or 11,000. And I told her that with the money they have in donations, they can use that to front the grant, and then we can just put it back in there when we get the money. So
Well, as far as that grant too, she was wondering, can she go ahead and apply
She can
for it,
she
or
can
does
apply.
she need to wait? And I know you
I
explained
mean,
that to her.
the way you all do it is y'all always approve for any department to apply for a grant. So I feel like that needs to be handled the same. We've got her going through the hiring process right now with the city. We're trying to influence her to follow all the same policies and procedures of the city, because the auditors say they are a department of the city and they need to facilitate ASO. So.
Well, Jeff and Michelle, thank you so much for taking this step. I was previously on the library board, and everything that you're explaining is exactly correct in the way it's been. I will tell you that before Barb was hired, they were hiring $80,000 a year library directors.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they hired Barb, and I was on the library board, I was able to kind of discuss with them. I know we're a level 3 library, but to employ somebody with a doctorate in that kind of department, it's, you know, it's near impossible.
Yeah.
But in doing that, it opened them up to hire who they needed.
Right.
So I'm a little confused as to why they can't have 2 full-time people, because at least Barb and 1 full-time equaled the previous 3 directors' salaries. So
Well, we took on the assumption, and this is just a worst case scenario. Right now, it's her and Jamie, who's full time.
okay.
If you brought another person in, you would have to include that salary, but you would also have to include insurance cost. And both of them are on single coverage, so your insurance cost in that department is really low.
Yeah.
But what if you hired somebody in and they had to have family coverage? So you kinda gotta estimate like that as worst case.
Just three things, and one of them's on what she's talking about. You know, I hate that they feel like that they're a stepchild, but that's the way it's set up. You know, we have an agreement with them. They asked for this.
Yeah, so.
I mean,
That's what I was.
In our written agreement, contract that we have with the former library board, they're the ones who came to us and wanted to do what they're doing now. Now then, going back to we had full-time people, and that's when Miss Cash was here, and she was getting ready to retire, and they took that salary instead of replacing it and added it on to the director's salary to pay that astronomical amount. And that board did that. We didn't do any of the hiring, you know. They did that themselves. Because we haven't given them any extra money to, it's always been the same for years.
Wait, so the setup that we have with the library is due to an inter-city agreement and not through the state?
So
Okay.
that's why I have my hand up, because I got a whole spill on this. So the auditors say, in the auditor's position, it's another department of the city. Our municipal code does not say that. Our municipal code says that the library board can choose to turn over management of the library to the city manager to be managed as any other department if they choose. They have not chosen that. We also have the library agreement, which I think the last one we passed was 2014, something like that, which lays out some stuff. My involvement stopped when the librarian that was here when I got hired left, and they were going to hire another one. And the library board chair at the time made it very clear to me that my presence was not needed. So at that point, you know, you don't have to ask me twice. My thought, and Kelly and I were talking about this today, the library agreement, like I said, it's been several years since we passed that. There are conflicting opinions on which policies they should follow, which one they shouldn't. You have the library personnel who feel like they're left out in the dark because I don't include them on things in my other department. My recommendation would be that we get MTAS to come in and sit down with us and the library board and the city council, and let's figure out how to best gel this relationship, and let's update the library agreement to reflect that, because it's really kind of gray, a lot of gray areas. And we know that by the agreement that they agree that we'll do their finances for them, and as such they'll follow our financial policies. But as far as personnel policies and various other things, we don't have a clear understanding on that. And we also know that it's, you know, per our library agreement right now, if it's followed to the letter, it says that we're responsible for mowing the yard and blowing off the parking lot, and that anything else going on down there to that building comes out of their budget.
Right, and that's what was so hard to deal with, because I was constantly getting complaints about, you know, the gutter's full, or there's a crack in the brick,
Trees.
or there's a, you know, I mean, it's like, and it was very difficult to navigate with them, try to let them know how that agreement is set up. So what you're talking about, is that something else that might need to go onto the list when we send to the state government? Or is that a different municipal, I mean?
That'd be only if we
It's not in the
change
charter,
it.
it's in municipal.
Yeah, and you know, the municipal code should match what the agreement says.
Okay.
And you know, but my thought is, you know, if we bring in the library board and the regional people, let's get everybody around the table, get somebody like MTAS to come in and help us.
Yep.
And that way the library knows what they're responsible for, we know what we're responsible for. And you know, I have no problem, like the question that was brought up today is they have a position that they're hiring for, and I have a step-by-step policy for hiring that I sent out to all and made mandatory for all my department heads. But in my mind, I can't enforce that on the library, because I have no authority over the library. So, you know,
The board has the authority.
yeah, so.
I do believe that the board wants to get away from that old agreement back, you said 2013.
2013,
Yeah,
14,
yeah,
something.
I believe they do want to feel like they're more part of the city and can work with
It's
each
a
other,
different
you know.
board now.
Yeah.
Right, and what's
Yeah.
gonna happen in 5 years when the board changes again?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
city can either side can break the contract 30-day notice before the renewal.
Mhm.
We're supposed to renew it every year, but we don't.
Well,
I just
it's
sent it
something
to
that
you.
is needed to be long addressed, and hopefully, maybe, since, you know, it's definitely a different, board director, not the library director, but the board director that was kind of, I wanna use the word ringleader, but I will. Yeah, it was, a very hard situation, yeah, Randy dealt with.
I mean, the
it too,
comment
so-
I've heard at the board meeting, sometimes they feel like they're on an island, so I think they're looking for what you're talking
Well,
about.
let's see if we can get him to ask everybody together and let's sit down and figure it out.
My last deal, in response to what Council Randy said, was that applying for a grant, I'm all for them applying for grants or us helping with a grant, but history again comes back that the last grant that I'm aware of that they were gonna do bit us. They had a Friends of the Library Foundation, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, was it before your time? It may not be.
Mhm.
But they came in, they had this grant. Oh, well, it's got a match. Don't y'all worry, because we were worried about the, maintenance of effort, about us putting money ahead. We're not, well, you've got your money. Well, we're not gonna take it out of there. The foundation is gonna fund it. We got in, we got accepted, we were fixing to vote on it on the council, and the library board sends us word, oh, no, we're not gonna pay that. We found out that we've got to do this. We didn't know that, or, so that puts the library backwards
Right.
for applying for a grant and fixing to get awarded it, and then pull the plug just right before the award, because there was no way of funding it
Yeah.
at all. And that was about a 6 or 7 month process
Mhm.
that we went through with them. So they just need to be careful just applying for a grant, and, you know, it's gonna be, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I
money
think
the same
her-
thing.
Barb has a little bit more free reign.
Yeah.
Than she did before, and she does things well.
Yeah.
I think what made it very hard is when you had a board director acting as the library head, and that situation is no longer, so.
If I understood right on the grants, her main concern is if a grant date is like September 1st to apply, that she's afraid by having to wait to get approval of council, that it could be expired before she ever gets to do it.
But does she not have to wait to get approval from the library board, so?
Yeah, well, yeah, we discussed in the library board, but then, no, we just wanted to, we need to bring it for council to get the approval for the matching funds and stuff.
So we're right back where we were before.
Right, so it's, like I said, there's plenty of things need to be ironed out.
Well, let's see if we can't, what you can get set up.
Friends of the library.
I
Sort
don't
of.
think they're there anymore.
They
Yeah, I
are,
said,
and
they are.
actually, at one time, they have an account that had some money in it.
It's no longer.
Oh, it's no longer.
There's no
Because I remember
longer.
they were having terrible trouble because whoever was over that checking account wasn't being cooperative about releasing those funds.
You know, they even
so-
bought equipment
Yeah.
and had their own equipment, and then when they went under, or
No.
whatever happened to it.
Well, one thing
The
we.
city ended up getting they used to,
Yeah.
because it was in violation of the code subdivision, they kept a trailer parked out in front of the library, a 24-foot trailer. Box trailer that was full of books,
Yeah.
and they would sell the books. Well, it sat there and sat there and sat there, and of course, everybody across the street, so we ended up with the trailer, the city ended up buying the trailer.
Now, on the library board, only one of these people live in the city. Is that an issue?
I think the code says that preferable
Okay.
that they live in the city.
You all vote on a recommendation?
Well, we have 3 here, but one last thing I want to say, what we talked about, we did agree to let Savannah and get with Michelle on the money, so everything be open on that. Okay, now on this, I met Jinx, she was the one that applied last time, and
She's been on the board.
yeah,
many times.
she seemed like she'd be good for the board. The other 2, I don't know nothing about them. I don't know if anybody else knows anything about them. So on the other ones, just, I guess who are further, I can't, Beverly, is that Tillman or Zillman? I can't,
Zalman.
okay.
How many board members live inside the city now? Because the majority, according to the code, the majority of the board members have to be in the city.
I believe,
I know, I know that, Kelly does, I don't really know about the others.
Smith,
Savannah.
Smith,
does.
Savannah.
I know Kerry Willett lives.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah.
yeah.
But one of one of Barbara's concern was, which she was wondering if we could approve them tonight. I said, I don't know whether we can do that or not. Because she's afraid we might not have enough for a quorum for the meeting, which we could cancel it till July till we do this. So I mean,
I would definitely be for putting Jinx
yeah,
back on.
I'm definitely for her too after I met her. And the other two, I just don't know nothing about them.
I don't.
Just to be honest with you.
And they live outside.
And I asked Barbara, and she don't know much about them either. So.
She told us today they were just, both were just patrons of the library, and that's all she knew about it.
Yeah.
Well, then, we'll just have to pick one of them Tuesday night.
So we can appoint two on Tuesday night to fill the positions in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And about the grant, do we need to have you all vote on that for her to approve, or she'll miss the vote on that?
Grant.
To be honest with you, me and Barbara has not.
It's like, she
Discussed
said
that
it would be
much.
like $10,000 or $11,000 probably.
Yeah.
And is it 100%? Is there a match?
I think it's a match, but see, I think that would be something that would probably have to come out of their donation money. They're gonna have the money there right now.
Yeah, I can't.
Later on
opinion
down the
about
road.
it if I don't know what the grant is, how much the grant is, what is the
I can
match.
Yeah.
find out more details from her, or Jeff can. either
Well,
one.
I'll check with her too, but
Yeah.
since money, you're welcome to.
Mr.
I mean,
Bowler.
Hey, she done very well over last,
Not
Yeah.
a library. I'm
and
sorry.
I
go
will
ahead.
talk to
No,
Barbara
I
about
just
it.
said thank you for
Uh,
inserting yourself in that situation is helpful.
Yeah.
Just not a library issue, just when I originally did the agenda, number 9 was the last item. Some things were added before then, so do you want to move number 9 down to the end and knock out those other 3 before we
Yeah, that'd be fine.
go into that? Okay.
Yeah, that'd be fine. So, with 10, discuss approval process for requests for closed city streets. Councilmember Randy Childs.
Yeah, I was looking, moving that down. I come talk to Mr. Bolton this week. I know years ago, city manager sat down, city street, and that's a day-to-day operation. He's been coming to us like, well, Jason, either wants to shut streets down, whatever. Why do we have to vote on that? I mean, that's a day-to-day operation that we should be doing, and because if something comes up where it doesn't, can't make a meeting, something was going to come up, because actually I was one of them that had come up and they'd have to go through 2 meetings before we could even vote on it. So, my point is, I mean, it's a day-to-day operation, that he would be the one that would look and give it to the chief of police and whatever. Why are we voting?
I think it's in the code that it's gotta be pre-approved by the council, like, for instance, hanging banners, street signs over a city street has to be voted on by city council. And I believe I read that closing that because of safety had to, I just, somehow I remember reading that, but.
I don't know, we could look it up. I'm sure Sandy has access to the code book.
City code, it has to be approved by city council. Okay.
Oh, that's
Regard
easy.
that.
So, that's.
I mean,
But that code can be changed.
I have no problem getting with the chief and making those decisions. If you want to delegate that authority to me, that's entirely your call to
I've never
make.
seen one not approved.
No, and I
No,
mean,
we've had to work around some issues with them before, but yeah.
But what I was getting at, my point, if something needs to be done, and it must be done before we can vote,
They need to plan ahead of time.
okay, the street falls out.
Well, I think that's
You
a
have to
bit
close the
different.
road, well, we're gonna have to come and vote on that?
No,
Will you close the street?
if the street falls in, the code also says that the city can close their own streets for repairs, just like paving, striping. You know, we closed the street just 2 weeks ago and replaced a tile for 2 days.
So it's code if a party other than the city,
I
the
think.
county, the state.
I believe that's the way it is. And I could very well, I'm probably wrong.
Well,
Let me just
Chief
go out
said,
on that.
yes.
I'm looking that up right now. It probably won't load as quick as we need it to, but but I can tell you what it says in just a second.
That code's got a lot of stuff in it. Let me tell you, it's got a lot.
Yes, it does, and it was.
And you know,
We wanna-
we always talk about, is that in the charter, is that in the charter? There's not much in the charter,
No,
it's
it's in
all in the
code.
code.
Yeah.
So anyway, you can move on to something else. If I find that, I'll.
Look over
Hey,
here, Chris.
she's going old school on you. Get off the
The
computer.
brains of the eye. Well, I found that
Look
part,
at it.
but.
Steady, I've already found that part.
So it says, no person shall use or occupy any portion of any public street, alley, sidewalk, or right-of-way for the purpose of storing, selling, or exhibiting any goods, wares, merchandise, or materials, except as authorized by city council. But it doesn't say if it doesn't involve, there's some gray area there. If you had a car show or you had something that doesn't involve commerce, it doesn't say per se, city council has to vote to close the street. Basically what that says is you can't do business on a city street unless authorized by council. So it does not say that council is the only one that can close the street. I would agree with Councilmember Childs that that's something we're more than capable of handling administratively, but it's your call. And thank you, Kelly, for
But we changed the route of closing the streets on the Christmas parade.
Well, I think that's
yeah,
the problem.
because I didn't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. That's why you.
And that's a rule, and it's like all rules, something caused that. When they wrote the charter back, or the code back,
Yeah.
25 years ago, something happened, well, we're gonna put that in there. Just like the way we determined vice mayor and all that kind of stuff, and how we elect the city councils. There was an incident happened that made that change when we got that.
I think that one was written in 1991, that particular passage. But, if it is something that,
Well, it goes back to our original question. Does it need to be left on us to do it, or can it be handled by you and the chief?
I have no problem with. I mean, obviously, if it's something like the municipal code says that involves commerce, somebody, for example, if somebody wanted to have.
Just like we do for the street fest.
Just like that, yeah. If
That's
somebody.
That's commerce.
Yeah, if somebody wanted to put on a private, just like we just had, a private entity wanted to put on a festival that was going to involve commerce, then yeah, I think that's something that you all would need to decide. But if it's something as simple as a car show or, whatever, I don't see the problem with that.
So
I have one question, if I may. As far as closing, whether it be a car show or anything that's not involving commerce, what will be the procedure as far as letting the business owners know if a street's closed? So that way, if we're doing something that might affect their business, which
Well,
in turn, of course, affects our sales tax.
How I would do it, if it were up to me, is, if you have a section of street and there's 2 or 3 businesses on it, or 2 or 3 residents or whatever, I would want to reach out to all of those prior to making a decision to make sure if any had any objections to it, if there was any businesses that were open that day, that sort of thing. We're not going to want to do anything that's going to impact, for example, like the car show that we always have. That's why we moved that down to make sure no houses were involved. And of course, the dentist's office is closed that day, so we're not going to do anything that's going to impact anybody.
And with that said, I mean, I knew the car show didn't impact at all, but I knew that was one of the questions that was asked on the last one about making sure all the business owners, and just moving forward, it would just simplify things if there was some kind of procedure that we knew that every business owner was gonna get contacted.
See, like, for instance, your business down there on the end, and
Mhm.
you're closed on the weekend, and you needed to have something where you'd have to use that street over to the courthouse,
Mm-hmm,
he could check with the chief,
sure.
the law office is shut down, something come up, say, in 2 weeks from today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we don't meet again, you want to do it, he could make that decision, shut down 3rd Street from
Yeah.
Ray Street over to Courthouse Parkway or whatever, which it wouldn't affect the business.
Yeah, I can promise you, Chief and I we're not gonna prove anything that's gonna impact somebody negatively, so.
Yeah, I was worried about Highway 58.
Yeah, we're probably never gonna close Highway 58, so don't worry.
Worry about Kinzers.
Yeah.
I mean, we put them in an island every time we had something.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But
Chief, would you
have any problem with us deciding that ourselves?
No.
So, it's however y'all wanna do it.
So anything except anything pertaining to commerce, street fests, that what was happening down there will come back to us. Anything else that's like a car show or some
Yeah.
kind of event somewhere that's,
Yeah, somebody wanted to have a sidewalk sale or something like that, then I think, those sort of things
I know we have
need
had
more.
discussions on sidewalk sales before.
Yeah, and
Those are decisions that I would think naturally you all need to be involved in and have a lot of components to them,
Right.
But, if it's something simple, then, I'm good with that if that's how y'all want to do it.
Speaking, you brought up sidewalks, Mr. Mayor. In the code, it also says that we are to charge the businesses for the sidewalks in front of their stores. And when we repair them, that the full cost goes to the property owner. And I don't never know of us doing that. So when we get into this charter and whatever these changes are, when you read through, I've already got that one penciled into the side.
Yeah, it's,
For instance, we should have charged the Methodist Church for the new sidewalk down there. We should have showed Caldwell out at the other place to do the sidewalks in front of their business. But I've never known of us doing that. So,
No.
There's things in there that just
need to go away.
need to go away.
Okay. So what do we need to do on that, Mr. Attorney? We need to,
Change the code.
well, if we're not changing the code, that them two can approve everything except what the code says.
What the city manager says.
I mean, that would be my recommendation, is leave the code alone. Let's keep doing that just like we've been doing it. But if it's not something that's expressly pointed out in the code, then like any other day-to-day management of city resources, then
Okay.
The big thing about bringing this up was the event centers, and she had no idea I was even bringing this up. If they wanted to do it, like I said, in her area, if the Jim Henry one, they could do Spring Street from North Kentucky to Third Street. The new doctor's office is coming in and they, use the park and he's allowing them to do that. That wouldn't be no effect there. The new event center out here that's coming up, if they had that big event coming up and they had something, the parking got out, well, we could shut inside or by landing down, redirect traffic, well, I mean, we'd have to do that. That's what this is all about.
How you getting around, why is that not commerce? If it's a doctor's office and it's an event center and it's the Jim Henry Event Center gonna close the street down, they're charging for that, so that makes it part of commerce.
I think the way I interpret that in the municipal code is if somebody wants to use city resources to set up shop, whereas in the old days somebody would come in with a booth or something and they would just set up. You see on the Andy Griffith Show the guy that has his his used wares and they move him around all over town. But I don't know. Again, that's one of 1,000 things in our municipal code that's about as clear as mud. But if it's just a simple street request, again, if you all want to handle all those, that's fine. If you don't, we'll quit bringing them to you. We probably have 2 or 3 of them a year, but you tell me how you want.
That's the thing, I mean, there's only 2 or 3
Yeah,
here.
it's not like it's every other
It's not
day.
like it's a big deal for us to be asked.
No.
I mean,
If it's simple to figure out, I think we should just let them two handle it myself.
It ain't broke, don't try to, you never know what it, again, it's in there for a reason. That's just my thinking that, we set policies, then we break policies. We got another one coming up just next, and we set a policy, we want to change it again, so. As soon as somebody has something and the chief does it, and one of us don't know about it, and we get mad, well, you didn't tell us, I can just hear it now. David, you didn't tell us nothing about that, how come you shut that street down? I
So-
just see it coming.
so what is the reason that this was brought to the forefront? Is it been an issue? I mean, are people mad that they have to come in front of us to get a street closed?
Okay.
It was brought up that because we have to go through the 2 meetings, that something come up in between, like 2 week out, something come up.
Well, nobody's planning a last-minute street fest, though, or car show.
No, he was referring to, it was something that was last minute meet and greet
Yes,
with a new business owner. Right?
yeah. we may have, like, for instance, on the event centers, that street right there, if she come up, somebody wanted to have something done in a couple of weeks, we would have to wait. If you come in tomorrow, we would have to wait 5 weeks before we could do it again, 4 weeks, before we would have it, even bring it up to the workshop, then another week to wait afterwards.
So we would be closing down our streets for parking for a business to have an event? Is that what you're saying?
No, they could use this, you would have parking or whatever, cars, like the car show thing, cars on the street, whatever the event would be.
Let me,
Now, car show is one thing, but to close down our streets just so a business can have extra parking, no.
can
Well,
I
that-
chime in on that? I have not requested anything. Let's just make this clear. There's not an event happening that will need me to close the street down, so let's back up. Okay.
You know,
Like you pointed out, there's
Okay.
3 or 4, so.
not
Spent
this,
more time on this than we did $1.7 million.
this wasn't, to answer your question, this was not requested, but just as a practical example of where this could come in. You know, last weekend, there was an event, at Jim Henry's Event Center.
Right.
And, you know, that facility has very little parking.
Right.
They parked cars across the street at the bank. Had that gotten full, you could see a scenario where they may say, we're out of parking, we think we're gonna have more crowd than we have parking, could we close that section of Spring Street and park cars on it? If a request like that came up now, we'd have to say, no, that would have to go before city council. If that came to us, we could more easily make a decision in a shorter time frame than we could now. I think that would be an example of where that might come in handy. Again, that request didn't happen, but I could see something like that.
I would
But
hate to get into the street fest and where you have, you know, activities out in the street to close down a street or a car show. I understand that. I feel like it gets into a very sticky situation when you're closing down the street to park cars for a business. I think that would be kind of sticky situation for anybody who lives in that area that the street was being shut down for. But that's just my opinion now. If it's somebody coming to us for a car show, street fest, you know, that's where that actual event is in the street. That's, I feel like, completely different, but it's just me.
Right, so we'll just leave it like it is until somebody,
Like this, I'll withdraw that.
I really don't even want to bring up the next one, but I'm going to anyway. Discussion of restoring adjustments for filling of swimming pools. Randy and I have talked about this, and I've had a lot of complaints. I've had a lot of people that's come to me and said, hey, why am I paying for sewer to fill my pool up? I've brought this up to this council several times, and I know Randy's had the same few complaints. So I still want to try to do something.
I have a pool, and I'm not going to get in an argument with my next door neighbor who has a water leak, and we didn't give them adjustment for their sewer bill for a water leak, and I got an adjustment to fill up my pool. I could see that happening. Just worst case scenario. And all these people that have come in to adjust their bills are gonna have the same.
Well, you know,
You choose to have a pool, it's a lot of maintenance. You're responsible for it. People can't help a water line break.
anybody else like to discuss this?
There's a way of getting around it. You put in an irrigation meter.
Well,
We
we
discussed it
discussed that, didn't we?
Which costs,
It costs a good bit of money, but that's your option.
pay for the sewer or put
Well,
the
actually,
irrigation?
one of the guys after he was talking about it, he let me know that he had an irrigation, and I said, do you have a way to hook onto it to do your pool? He said, I don't even use the irrigation. He said, but the meters are, and I pay for it every month. I said, run you a line to it and fill your pool. He said, that won't charge us? No,
That's what it's for.
So that one worked out really good.
Yeah, but I've had several others come to me, but
How many swimming pools we have in Kingston
I don't know.
on the water system?
There's a lot.
Evidently, we got a bunch.
There is, cause when we worked the water park, there's a lot of people that used to.
It's so interesting that people fill their pools at the beginning of every season. Most people leave water
Well,
in the pool and then top it off and treat it.
Right, but it's not, I mean, the ones that I've talked to had to completely drain it, put a new liner in, and refill it.
Oh, because they got a new liner.
Yeah.
But,
Years ago, the fire department used to fill them for 'em.
Mhm.
Remember that?
yeah.
So I guess that can't happen no more.
Then the volunteer fire department used to charge people to do it, and they'd come in the city and get our water, take it back out there and fill it back up.
Yeah, see that happen.
Now we've got a meter that we can attach to the fire plug and charge them if they still want to do that.
Yeah.
If they,
I'm
for
letting it
instance,
go.
if they're still in a well and it's gonna suck their well dry where they don't have any grid.
I understand their plea, I mean, I get it, but if we hadn't already had this other policy with the insurance and people coming in and out of here about water leak adjustments,
Yeah.
be
Did we
different.
send that out in
Yeah, 'cause I
a
feel
thing to
for
let
them.
people know that they couldn't do that anymore?
Do what?
No,
Did we?
but we did.
We put it on the bottom of the bill.
I mean, people's looking at it though, I'm sure.
They read their emails, Mayor.
Now, that was uncalled for.
Is there, I just had another question. Is there a way that we could calculate what an average cost of that, what that would be to add the meter in?
It was 25,000 gallons.
But I mean, to add the irrigation
Irrigation meter is what,
meter.
17, what is it, Kevin?
$3,000, wasn't it?
I think around about figure for material and all right now, you'd say about $2,000 on the irrigation.
So if that was something that, if we had like some information for someone that called requesting that, and we could say this would be an option for you, and then depending on how much water that is, I mean, how much,
I think they do.
A lot of people that I talk to, you know, they call in, hey, why am I paying for this? What's the other option so I don't have to pay for sewer? I do tell them about the irrigation, but the reply back is well, I could pay, I could empty my pool for 3 years, empty and fill it back up for 3 years for what I'm paying there.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's not economically feasible unless you're gonna use it for other stuff.
This is not, I mean, of course, as I've told y'all before, I don't vote, but if you change this, I'm just telling you, y'all's getting ready to flood me with headaches.
I'm as far as if I can get everybody that we're just fixing to move on to the next one and go on around it.
I just thought it was interesting. We have others that are begging to get on the sewer, and then we have ones that don't.
That's the way it
This is amazing.
The argument point with a lot of people is, and this is sort of what I have to tell them, you know, swimming pool's no different than you watering your flowers, it's no different than you
Wash
washing
your car, right.
driveway. Those people that does that, they're having to pay sewer for that.
Sure, and that's the best way to explain it. Mhm.
All right, moving right along. Number 12, discussion of a request to surplus equipment. Looks like you got this one item.
We do, and give you a little backstory on this. This is a 2019 boat. It was brand new. Gentleman bought it, and I think he put it in the water one time, maybe when he was test driving it. Bought the boat, couldn't use it, realized that he wasn't in a position to use it, and he donated it to the fire department, gave it to him. Boat, trailer, everything. It's brand new. It's a fishing boat. It just doesn't fit our needs. The department doesn't really have a use for it, so they would like to permission to put that on Gov Deals and repurpose those funds. So.
No problem. We'll add that to the agenda for Tuesday night. Now we'll go back to number 9 is continued discussion of the proposed 22-23 budget. Mr. Bowling, Ms. Kelly.
So, we got this back on here, obviously, we had the budget workshop, last month, we had some that weren't here, for their benefit, wanted to put the budget in general up here for discussion, prior to the first reading that we do in a little bit. Obviously, we've made some changes, had to make a few changes, and Michelle can go into that. I know she's communicated that information with you guys. We've been, just to say real quick before we get started, you know, we've been in a very extraordinary situation this year with inflation. And, you know, we've done a lot more amendments, changes last minute than we ever wanted to do. You know, we tried to get away from that. That's been our goal over the last couple of years, was to get away from having to do all these last minute adjustments. It's just been a game of trying to move funds around to cover things because So we've had to shuffle the deck a lot more than we normally would. And I'm glad that we've been able to do that. You know, I'm proud that we have been able to meet these costs without just completely blowing everything out of the water, because I've talked to some other cities who are absolutely struggling with that. So I just wanted to kind of explain that to you, why there were so many changes. I know at the last budget workshop, there was one change, an increase in the Parks and Rec budget that was suggested, and we allowed for that in the new copy. But so there have been a few minor changes, but again, this budget is here for your consideration. We do have the first reading tonight. That doesn't shut the door on changes when we come back to do the second reading. You know, there could be 45 amendments to that budget, and it just depends on where you all want to go with it. So that's all I have. Michelle may have something to add to that, and then we can go through the budget however you all want to go through it. So.
I mean, I watched the meeting, and then any question I had, I've discussed it with you and Michelle, so I'm fine with it. I'll go around. Mr. Rivers, you have anything on the budget?
No.
That's what I
Now,
thought.
is this for the budget that we're gonna have a special meeting for?
Well,
Is that
let's
what
talk
this
about
was?
the amendment
I
first.
was going to
If-
say, I
Yeah.
thought that was the amendments that we were gonna do.
Yeah.
Well, we have,
I was
we
confused.
have the first reading of the budget in a
Tonight,
few
yeah, but-
minutes, so I'd want to give you and some of them that
Yeah.
chance to.
Do you want me to just go over what I changed since because I
That'd be
can do
fine.
that briefly. On the 147,000 that we had already put in this amendment to move for the paving from the capital fund, that was originally direct appropriations money. That is still the same, but you'll see the transfer in from the capital fund on the bottom of the revenues there, that has increased because we have that $100,000 that's in the capital fund for the Lad Landing, and we are having to pay for those engineering services, and that was $2,790, and you'll see that's about halfway down on the expenditures. It says Lad Landing Engineer Services, so I'm having to appropriate that $2,790 out of the $100,000 for Lad Landing. So that's the first thing.
Is that this, you on this page? Is that what that
Yes.
The ones that we're laying on
Yes.
today.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the new.
Ordinance number 1.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. Are you with me now?
I am.
Okay. All right. The next thing is, I had a couple things where I was just trying to, see numbers were real and we were running out of money in places. We had a little bit of overage on the paying off the street paving note and the Kentucky street improvements. And we had an overage on the legislative salaries, so I actually had extra money in my health insurance for financial administration, so I've just cleaned that up with $6,603 of that. So I had an overage there myself. Last week, you all had it was auto service that was on the original, the one that went out in the packet. We had an issue with our auto service account, and we cleaned up a liquidated PO, and so that was not over. But then we paid the electric bill on state street aid, and we had an overage of like $4,000. So we have taken $4,300 out of the Public Works Capital Equipment surplus money. He has enough to cover what he needs to, and then the $4,000 is going to cover that electric bill. And really, that sums all that up, and on the second page is just where I increased the capital fund amount that's being moved to the general fund for the appropriations. If you're not with me, tell me. If you need an explanation, I can give you that.
I'm good.
Let's see if Tony is. You're good. Okay, so on the second amendment, which is for the water department, one of the big changes is you'll see the top line, Grand American Rescue Plan Act. We have a bill from Bargers where they did some repair maintenance at the water plant that was essential for us to do.
Yes.
And that money we were gonna go ahead and cover with the ARP money, but they've already done the work, and that bill has to be paid in this year because it was done in this year. So I'm only taking $27,000 from the ARPA money and putting in the water department and appropriating it to pay that bill before June 30th.
If you remember, that was the one where, and Kevin can explain the process, we had to do some work. The pump went out, the pump was down in the clear well, and they had to actually go down in there, and so we wanted to fix it to where we didn't have that problem again next time. So our thought was, you know, since that was unexpected, but something that's a good investment that's going to save us time and money down the road, that we would take that $27,000 out of our direct appropriation, which we've already received, and can certainly do that with. So that was just a thought. If you don't want to pay for it that way, that's fine, but that's something that we think was a good little investment at the water plant. So.
The rest of that is, we had already talked about, I had to increase the sewer department's health insurance because of an employee adding health insurance that didn't have it prior to. And then I had to make an increase to cover, when we did our new loan for the water department to refinance several of those loans, the amount budgeted for interest was less than what the new loan required. So I had to pay more interest this year. So all these other little line items is where I just found $2,000 here, $10,000 here, $5,000 here to try to clean that up. And that's pretty much it on that one. Basically, I'm just trying to keep everything in line so that we can prevent as many audit findings as possible and keep our bookkeeping clean. So
I want to publicly commend you, David and Kelly, who are all your other numbers people, for doing these budget amendments as we find them and as we need them, instead of waiting to the end of the year and us not having a clue of what they are, the way we've done them in the past. It's just so refreshing to know that we balance month to month. I have to do that at home. Don't know why we didn't do it for you this year.
well, when I'm having to come up here today though and change it at the last minute, that bothers me but you know, and I'm hoping not, but anything could change before next Tuesday because we're down to Neil right now. You know,
and it could change.
Yeah, but you'll know, and I will explain it to you. So
Appreciate it.
I don't have,
We're gonna put that on the agenda to amend
to vote
the existing budget
Yes.
in both water and.
Mhm. Now you can talk about the new budget.
We have to.
Hold on.
This meeting.
hold on.
No.
So we need to do 2 readings on these ordinances, right?
We've already done the first one.
We've already done the first one?
You weren't
Okay.
here.
Changed.
It's just changed before the second.
Okay, I was making sure, yeah, I knew it was an amendment, I was making sure because
I
I
was
knew
just
we'd have to have it done before June.
Explaining
30th.
changes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, I just
That'll
want,
that'll be on the agenda next week.
okay, alright. Now we can go to this year's budget, or next year's budget, 22 and 23.
Can we take just a minute break?
Sure.
Let
We-
call the roll, let me say yes, and I'm gonna go back.
Oh, well, we're still in the work session right now.
Oh, I thought we were done.
No, we're discussing, if anybody wants to have any discussion on the budget, we went back to number 9.
Oh,
So I'm gonna go around. Mr. Evans, do you have any discussion on the budget?
No.
Mr. Wright, do you have any discussion on the
Yeah.
budget?
Tony, you might wanna take a break.
Recess.
Yeah.
so you gonna talk a long time?
No.
Good. See, I promised my book was gonna say a little.
Yeah.
I've already talked more than I should have.
Oh,
Go
okay. Budget.
It has changed.
Okay. So is everything that we discussed in the last meeting able to still work, even though all these changes?
Yes, the increase of 20,000 that
Yeah.
we put in, yes, that worked. The problem was, is we found our health insurance went up,
That's
not
right.
5%, it went up 9.4%.
Right.
So
That's
that
why I
hurt.
was- Okay,
And I was able to shift some money around and make it work.
okay. Another thing that came up, and Tara, maybe you can help with this, and it got a lot of discussion our last meeting, was about the Veterans Banner Project, and how long is that, how much broader is that project going to get? Because it's starting to expend, quite the budget, to get that done. So is there a cutoff point? Is there, I just didn't know if Outdoor Kingston knew how broad that project's gonna get.
No, they had no idea how it was. It started with just a phone call asking Outdoor Kingston to order the banners, which is a good thing, and it is really taken off. But had a meeting after following up where I was not able to be here during the budget meeting.
Yeah.
I followed up with Outdoor Kingston, had a meeting with Outdoor Kingston and told them that we're close to being at the end of what's been appropriated for brackets for one.
Right.
And I said, one, the amount of money that's already been spent, this is all the funds that was appropriated. So at this point, what's your decision, what's your proposal to bring to the council on brackets? And they said, well, most definitely we would have to include that in the cost and then give the city the brackets with the banner if there was more that was ordered.
Right, because the banner and the bracket together is $130. And
no,
and the city
oh.
of Kingston paid for the 30.
For the bracket, because of course the bracket was paid for by the city on that line item, right?
Oh, no, my question was the original cost of the banner, what a person donates.
Oh, it's 130.
But the 30 was for brackets, was it not?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, the cost of it for the banner and shipping was actually more. It had increased and went up more than 130. But if we ordered a large number at one time, you were able to keep that amount. Because at one time, they were just trickling in. And if you placed a small order, it increased the price, just
So
like
when
most
we
things.
run out of brackets, is that the end of
It's-
how many are gonna be installed?
That would be 100% the end of what the city would budget.
Oh, no, that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about the employee
Expenditures. Yeah, and so I think going forward, it could be something that is easy as saying when that an order could be placed for the following year, when the cutoff date, and have a procedure of when you ordered to when they would be installed. So that way, I know with Tim Clark in January, whenever they took down the Christmas lighting, he said, well, do you think it would be a problem if we go ahead and put up these banners while we still have a truck? And it only made common sense to do that because it's cost effective. And so it's a little bit different this year because they didn't have a bucket, well, still don't have a bucket truck. He's having to borrow.
So there is no end in sight of the
Well, I mean, that's all depending on what the city wants to do as far as, we are just,
I think it's costing that department $4,000. It's $182 an hour for 3 employees.
so as far as I guess we can make that call as a council if the council decides they don't wanna do veteran banners after this year.
No, I'm not saying we
Oh,
don't do
okay.
veteran banners, I'm just saying how many poles, how many streets,
Oh.
how much time that takes up for
Yeah.
the department. So I'm definitely, I think the Veterans Project has obviously proved very, very popular.
Right.
But there has to be a point.
Oh, yeah.
where it starts cutting into Tim's budget.
Sure.
It starts becoming an issue, not just with his budget, but the expenditure of employees and stuff like that. So, if it takes 2 weeks to put banners up, okay.
Mhm.
But if there are so many, it's taken a couple of months to do, that's a completely, I would just like to know, how far that project's gonna go.
Well, as far as an order that has been placed, there's banners that was ordered prior to Veterans Day. So there is still an order that's actually coming in of 40-something banners. And whether that depletes, whether they need brackets for it, I told the Outdoor Kingston, they've received $130. We need to be prepared that we're gonna pay for anything that would exceed over that. And then as far as having a timeline, that's something as well we discussed, because, I mean, administrative wise, I mean, it's very time consuming on, and getting a.
On Tim's staff, I mean, the more banners that are purchased, you have to have those employees to install them, and the more there are, the longer it takes, the more of a budget it
Mhm.
is. So, when we talked about it at the last meeting and we did the numbers of how much money is actually being spent, it was a little bit of a eye-pop.
Yeah, on labor wise, is that what you're saying? Yeah, and then I guess at that point, you know, the council can decide what you feel like as far as what's a good time. You just have one order a year and have a certain time frame that they're installed, or is it 2 orders a year? I mean, what's that within their budget?
Mr. Bowling?
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, in terms of the logistics, and the ease of putting it up, you know, it would certainly be easier for the city if we did it at a time when we were up there working anyway. For example, you know, if we took veterans banners down, put up Christmas lights, took Christmas lights down, put veterans banners back up, you know, we're there anyway, and we're not duplicating effort. That's also not, that's not historically the busiest time of year. Where it gets problematic is, you know, in the summer when we're trying to mow and you know, and you're getting behind, you got so much else going on. So if we could coordinate that, you know, to where we did one order a year or whatever, I don't know how all that works, but I think that would certainly be easier, because, you know, in terms of, you know, the resources of obtaining a truck and having the personnel out there, we're there anyway. You know, that would leave them up longer, but, you know, it's
And with that said, that's exactly what Tim had mentioned as far as the transition at Christmas, because I know as far as the council goes, you know, we were talking about Memorial Day to Veterans Day, you know, with it being the flag being military, and as far as that goes. Having a time frame of when to receive orders to when to, or take orders and then place the order, you know, we can definitely set that tonight. I mean, I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. Administrative wise, I mean, it's just something that I've just tried to help out with the Outdoor Kingston, just to help the city. So we were just trying to do what the city requested. So at this point, we just didn't have.
I have a question on this, because I remember last time it was brought up about, at first, it was supposed to be up for so long, and then when it's taken down, said put it back up again, supposed to be gave back to the family. That was brought up, and that was said that hasn't happened. And of course, if that did happen, then that would free up a lot of brackets. If we did leave them certain amount of time, I don't know what that time was, but because this happened before I got on here, but that I was told that never happened. That it's supposed to be in a time span, and then it's supposed to be given back to the family. Was that correct or not?
That was the discussion, that they would be able to give them back to the family, and then of course, then it become where that they were just put up and then just took down because of the time frame. Right. And so we can do it whatever way. I mean, there's nothing that is, you know, it's just something to do out of reverence, but then at the same time, it helps the city in a appearance wise, because I mean, that was what.
I mean, I think it's a great thing, but
Yeah.
I just wonder, some going on about brackets and all that. You know, why do we get away from the postman for so long, then taken down, give to the family, which, you know,
I mean,
of course,
the
they won't
family,
back up, I guess.
right? Well, I was going to say the family can pick them up if they wanted to, because we've had some that wanted to order them, and they picked them up for them, like they never installed them. They just wanted it for themselves. So that wouldn't be a problem if any of them. But it's whatever the council decides as far as the banners go. I mean, as far as Outdoor Kingston, the committee was just doing as requested by the city. The city requested us to place the order. I mean, that was something, it just wound up taking off much faster and grown, and it was very popular.
Definitely, because now it's going down side streets and.
Well, on the side streets was only because of the request of the person that is putting it up, whether they had a relation with the school or whatever the case. The side streets was only in that downtown area. It wasn't ever intended to go out in residential.
Okay, so how many brackets do we have left? Does anybody know?
No idea.
No idea, okay.
Somebody obviously knows. I don't happen to have that information. You know,
I would say as soon as the brackets run out,
you know,
that is the amount that we would put up every year.
well, yeah. When this originally came up, when the idea was originally proposed for this, you know, the way Outdoor Kingston got involved is, you know, we said we don't need to be
Right.
selling things, raising money. We don't need to be involved in that part of it. So Outdoor Kingston worked with that, and I don't think anybody would have ever dreamed how big this took off. I mean, it just, they went like crazy, and we had 2 people in here today wanting them. So I think it will keep going as long as we keep it going or run out of poles. I don't think there will ever not be demand unless we
Well, that's what I'm
cut
saying.
it.
It could double even from what it is now.
You know,
So,
the easiest thing would be whether it's coordinated with the Christmas lights or whatever. You know, if you wanted to put them up on such and such date and take them down at such and such date, at least we would know, as opposed to, you know, 50 just came in, let's put them up, and then, you know, a couple months later some more come in, we're going to put that up. That's where it gets disruptive, when we were having to pull, because, you know, people buy these things, they contribute, and they have a right to have them up. They buy them so they can see them. So we feel, we want to comply with that. It'd be better if we knew, okay, on this date every year we're taking the banners down, this date we're putting them up. At least we can plan for it, and we know.
instead of like putting them up throughout the year.
I
Yeah,
think you just don't want it to interrupt Tim's operations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know,
Well,
if we could plan on it, you know, again, whenever you all want them up, if you want them up for 6 months, or you want them up for 3 months, or you want them up all year, whatever, you know, as long as we knew that and we had set dates, that would make it easier.
I just want to make sure it's not such a large project that we are going to have to start adding more and more and more into Tim's budget in order to facilitate it.
Well, the way I understood it is from now forward, the brackets are gonna come out of the purchase price.
Well,
That was what we were told, that,
yeah, I mean, whatever he has already purchased, I
runs
mean, and
out.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so just like what you mentioned, if there's a cutoff on that, and like there's no more that's being ordered until the following year, then is it that the council is deciding on what that procedure would be? Do we start from 0 and order new banners for, I mean, I don't know that number off the top of my head, but it's a lot.
Yeah, well, we didn't want it, you know.
I know,
we didn't
because I
want it-
ordered them, yeah.
We didn't want it coming out of Tim's budget at all.
Yeah.
Which is why you guys appropriated $10,000, which in essence is gone. It's been spent. So if you want, you know, then this was what we talked about in that workshop, is if you all want us to buy more brackets, you need to appropriate more money, because I don't think it's right to take that out of Tim's operating budget.
And
So-
with that said, that's what I just said as far as what the Outdoor Kingston said in their meeting this month after the discussion that was at the last workshop. So that is added in on the new form, which has not even been sent out because we had some that were coming in. You know, no more at that point when the new ones come in have been ordered. People are still sending them in, just like tonight, on paper, but no checks have been deposited with Outdoor Kingston, nor have they been ordered. And then it would just be a phone call to them to let them know, you know,
Well,
moving
in-
forward.
In theory, I think,
You know, you could do orders all year long, as long as people know, okay, you're ordering this,
They're not gonna be up till spring.
it's gonna be put up at this date, and then we'll just, you know, you just stockpile them as they come in. And then when it comes to put up date, then, but.
Mr. Brown,
2 points. I wasn't at this meeting when y'all talked about this either, and I apologize. But going along with what Randy's saying, so if, I keep hearing say whatever the council wants to do, is this a continuing Kingston project, or is it a city project?
kind of like,
Well, it's not,
We help with it in terms of the installation, that's,
They do all the administrative work. Okay. But without rules, evidently. And the rules have changed over whatever period because of the demand. So if, now we're saying the council needs to decide when we take them up, take them down. Is that what I'm hearing?
well,
I think it's,
That was brought up when it first come out, it was supposed to.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting to.
Yeah,
So
from
if we do what David's suggestion and we take them down and put the Christmas lights up, take the lights down, put them back up, are we giving, at that time, are we giving all the banners back to the people?
I think the question is,
Doing next year.
at what point is this gonna be all you do?
for example, when we took them down, I guess at Christmas, and we cleaned them up, most people wanted them to go back up. I think they're,
I don't know of any that went to the families.
yeah, I mean,
Personally, unless
Yeah, see, like I say, like Randy, I thought they all went to the family, so that would take care of all our problems. You start back over again, and another family of veterans, if we had, I'm just gonna use a number, say we had 100, and we've got a whole lot more than that. I don't know, maybe, let's just say if we had 100 for talking, then when they come down, we open it back up, 100 next year. Go up and down at the same time. After that, you give them to the family. We've already got the brackets. We don't need no more brackets. They're set. I thought that's what it started out to be. And, it looks like, because I can see now, and I didn't want to say anything, but since Terrace said that, I had a call, and I told them, I didn't think we had anything to do with it all. They started talking about people wanting, I want my granddaddy's deal on my street. So now when he comes in, Tim's gotta go through them, pick it out, go put it on the street, go put it on the pole, and then I understand that we didn't put one of them high enough, and then they'd go change it again, and had one that blocked a street sign, had to move the street sign. So it has mushroomed
Yeah,
out
I think it's a lot bigger than we ever thought it was gonna be.
than it ever thought it would be, but somewhere there's gonna have to be a cutoff. I hate to see them in neighborhoods, I'll be real honest with you.
oh, I would agree. I mean, it's strictly,
If I was wanting to find mine,
mm-hmm.
You may have to drive all over
you
Kingston.
have to drive over Kingston, unless somebody's keeping a map that says that Tony Brown's grandfather's banner is at 1255 Gollihar Road, so that I can send all my relatives out to look at it.
yeah,
Let me add
think-
something there, what I was talking about earlier. Okay, if they don't want them back, they want them put up, that we're getting, where we, going to places where we don't wanna put them, could we at least plan, well, on this next month should be this new batch go up, and then maybe the next time, yours
If you
will
want
go
another
back
one.
up.
Yeah, well, we're kinda getting off topic of the budget.
well,
No, this is, got money, they put
Part
money
of
in
the
it.
budget.
Well, no, if we're talking about putting them up and taking them down next year, and
We're talking about how much
The expense of
labor
it, what
it
she's
takes
saying.
to
We-
do this project, and we've got extensive discussion at our last meeting.
I
so-
know.
And so it is part of the budget, so I'm glad we are talking about it.
right, but we're not making any headway towards it, of what we're going for.
Well, if we had to add money to our budget for his department in order to run this program, that's what my question was. And to have the discussion so we know how big the project is, how far it's gonna go, how much it costs.
But I don't
so-
think we've got that answer of how far it's gonna go.
along those lines, and it is, I mean, obviously, there is labor cost in Tim's, and it's not so much new cost as opposed to labor costs that could be doing other things. But what if we, and this is just an idea, talking about where's it gonna go, what if you stop it now? And you say, okay, we've got all the poles that we can realistically handle, we've got them on all the major roads. From this point forward, there'll be a waiting list, and if you want to order one and somebody's wears out and they don't buy a new one, or the family wants it or whatever, then we'll have an opening. And
Thank you, David, that's an excellent.
that could work. I mean,
There's not any charge for keeping it up 5 years in.
Is this a permanent program?
That's what I'm getting.
Nobody knows the answer to that.
There's been, well, the discussion was, let me just rewind, is that the city, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong right here. Now, the city asked if Outdoor Kingston would order these for the city. Am I correct? I mean,
We just didn't wanna get involved in the money
exactly,
exchange.
exactly. So that's all Outdoor Kingston has done, is just order the banners and then turn around and give them back.
So it is up to us whether, I mean.
I mean, it's of course, it's your poll, it's our poll. Well, no,
It's not our poll. That's, yeah.
Permission to put them on their poll.
So, you know, it was never clearly defined. I think when this was started, I think the implication was that, you know, we'll put them along Kentucky Street, they'll look nice, and we'll put them up, and then they'll go to the families, and it snowballed from there. I think another aspect is nobody expected after 1 year, 1 season, that these things would still be in good enough shape to keep up. I think we probably thought they'd fade out, they'd wear out. You know, they're not going to last forever, and I think that, you know, but
I think your suggestion is a good suggestion. If it's going to be a project that goes on year after year after year, you limit it to a certain amount of poles.
What we have now.
Right? The amount of brackets that we have, and then if people want them to go back up, you know, that's one thing. I mean, I don't know how the logistics of that would be, but, and then if you wanted one and there were no poles available, then it goes on a wait list. I mean, I think that's.
I think you could easily tell somebody you're welcome to order one if you want, and we'll put you on a waiting list, and if a pole comes available, we'll call you and you can bring it by and drop it off and we'll put it up. I mean,
Okay.
I mean that
I mean, whatever.
So one question for the last, the 40-something, I'd have to look at my number, that have been ordered, hadn't come in. So those,
mean,
the brackets that are left over, going up, not going up,
I mean, I would think you would have a commitment to people who have ordered, who have pending orders,
yeah,
to put theirs up, but then
right.
we freeze it right now, you know, no more.
Exactly. No, I mean, because there's actually, there's probably 7 to date. I mean, the order was literally just placed, and there's 7, and when I say just placed, last month. I call that just now. Because it is very time consuming. But if these 7, I mean, it's just as easy as making a contact to them to let them know just what you said, that they could be ordered, but they wouldn't be put up until the next season.
Whatever family you talk to, if it maybe it is now time to, you know, if they want to keep their banner or not, and maybe those 7 people can come in when, you know, everything gets switched out. I mean, I don't know the
Has
administration.
there been any thought of going up on the price that you're selling them for, since you're not covering your costs?
Well, they are on the, that's what was discussed at the Outdoor Kingston, to cover the cost of the bracket. So if you're wanting anything more, and I asked Tim, he sent a link of where they ordered them from, and he said, as far as, he said, I would account for 1.5 brackets. He says that way if you have one that breaks, then it's replacing, because I mean, wind's gonna break them. I mean, that's just high winds and trucks, delivery trucks.
Suggestion, could you, just opinion, listening to y'all, could you just, you know, the people that's getting those banners, I mean, I know David made a suggestion, you know, get on the waiting list, but say those people that's got those banners, could you give them a time frame when you buy this banner, it'll be up for 2 years, and then it comes down? And,
They stuck around, or-
yeah, and that way you still got your poles, but everybody's getting a turn, that way other families is getting it up, and they're not having to wait the 3 years.
Well, I was saying, I wear them since May for a year, rotate them
Yeah,
every year.
I was just
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I'm
I
saying,
think that's basically.
you know, you gotta do something eventually.
One problem with some of that is there's not a person sitting at a desk whose job is to keep track of all that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, another thought was that I had, if you wanted to say, okay, this year at such and such date, they're coming down. They're all gonna come down at Christmas. We know that. Or whenever you say take them down. And then next year, we're gonna designate 100 poles,
Yes.
whatever, and first come, first serve. If you want your banner back up, let us know. When the 100 poles are gone, they're gone. And that may be, that may be another answer going forward, as opposed to saying, you know, you have so much time and trying to keep track of who has how much time left. You know, whether it be North Kentucky, whether it be Kentucky Street and 58 and I don't know, wherever, but you know, if you set a number, that may be,
How many brackets do we have now?
That's
We
what I
don't.
asked. We don't know.
I have no idea how many they've
You
got
might
left.
know, but.
So let me just ask this little simple question. Y'all put in at the last one $2,401 in the budget.
That's
I
what was
just
left
heard
over.
say that they're gonna start charging that for that.
That's what was left, wasn't
No,
it?
that was left.
That's what's
So
left
Well,
with
$5,000
$10,000.
in it, that's what it is then.
No, there wasn't anything added. That was the
Looking at the
original
new
number.
budget? Are you looking at the new budget?
I'm looking at the one that was in the packet.
Yes, we did put money, cause when we did this months ago, we did put money, David, in that line item for banner
Because
brackets.
we
'Cause
were
we-
carrying forward, if you will, the 10,000 that
Mhm.
you appropriated.
Yeah.
Cause we didn't think it was all gonna get spent
Right.
this fiscal year, so.
So that
2,400.
2,400 is left over out of the 10,000, it's not a new appropriation.
Well,
It was at that time.
at that time, but there was actually 4,000 left. And when we did that direct appropriations loan and we decided we were gonna, or not loan, but the grant, that money was gonna get spent on paving. When they were done ordering brackets or ordered the last bracket, there was 4,000 left and Tim had to do this paving job by June 30th. We moved that 4,000 to help cover the cost on the paving, because if you all had voted to pave the road and the money was still there, it would have still been the same, or with that money.
So to answer your question, there's no, as of now, there is no bracket
Yeah.
money. So.
Yeah,
it's not-
I'd be good with letting that money run out, and that way it narrows the program.
You don't have a program. That's
Well,
why I asked that
obviously we
question.
do.
This is beginning to sound like a permanent thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all right if that's what you want. But you all need to just to decide if you're going to have these banners up every year and for how long. You need a procedure of some sort, which I assume the city manager could help.
Well, you know,
And since there's no money in there.
Just take me out, throw me under the bus there.
Now we've spent more time on this than we did the other thing and on the one.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah,
Let's move this discussion
Yeah.
about this and have somebody that knows the numbers of how many's ordered and the number and all that kind of stuff. It may be in the minutes that we get from that group that'll be in our packet, I hope. And let's put it off to the work session, what do you think?
Yeah,
And let's get into the budget.
I agree, yeah.
Well, I mean, I've got more, but everybody else. can
No,
have a
you go
chance.
ahead.
Uh,
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not in charge.
The city manager's raise.
yes.
We need to discuss that and, how much, if we're in agreement, that the city manager should have an increase and what that percentage should be and, how much we can get up.
I don't think there's any choice.
I think you're getting an evaluation right now. Me and Kelly didn't get one, but you can.
We can't discuss it privately.
Well, let's go. What do you got?
I'm gonna go to the bathroom, so.
Okay, that's fine.
You guys talk about whatever you want.
I had, I believe I had 5%.
What is it right now, where the budget's written?
He had no raise, and he's not had a raise.
He gets one with cost of living, but his is at the lowest percentage because of the higher pay.
But all he's ever gotten
Was
is
that.
is what everybody else, he's never had a.
He's never had an evaluation.
Can you figure
raise.
out the 5% and
I've already done that.
I thought we had to have the evaluation first.
Yeah, I don't think there's been one.
we've not had an evaluation in a couple of
But
years.
it's not required in order to.
Yes, it is required.
Yes, it is.
It is
What?
required.
Required to give him a raise?
What did
Not to give
Randy, what
a
did you say?
raise.
I didn't hear what you said.
Evaluation is
Got nothing to
required.
do with.
Oh, I know,
raises.
it is definitely, we have to do
Need to
that,
do that.
but in order to give him a raise, we do
The
not.
evaluation doesn't have to
No.
have anything to do with that.
If you've got it figured out,
So
it
what's
works
the
out.
5%?
It's already in there.
Already in this one we got
It's
right
in
now?
this budget that you have in your hand. There's enough money to increase it.
Okay.
Perfect,
So,
done. The last thing I have, oh gosh, is the pool. I think he had it on his ARPA list, $70,000 for a pool cover.
Yes.
We also are gonna need a liner. And Michelle, didn't you say that you would get me some numbers on how much we've spent on the pool in
Can
past
you
2
get him back in
years?
here?
Oh, sorry, yeah, that's
I'm
right.
not going to the bathroom after him.
Because I thought that liner was $8,000
Well, no, the cover.
Cover was.
I mean the cover
Oh,
was
yeah.
$8,000.
Oh, yeah.
And the liner was $78,000.
Yeah, I
So
think
I didn't
that's-
know if they,
Let me, where is that? Doc?
70,000 is what's in the budget for the cover, it says.
Yeah, it says cover, but I think it.
So is that the liner?
I think it's the liner.
Hey, one quick question though, when I do that increase after July 1st, will you sign that? Cause normally he signs those, and if you'll sign that, then that will.
She did not.
So,
Okay,
So what do you wanna know? I can tell you,
first of all, you gave us, or David gave us, I can't find it now on all these stacks, but he gave us a list, and on the list it said 70,000 in ARPA money for a cover, but I think it was supposed to be liner.
So, you're talking about in
Pool.
the packet?
Well, we're talking about the pool, I'm so sorry.
Okay, yeah, so, in the, yes, in the memo that I gave you in your packet tonight, where we outlined potential projects, for ARPA funding, yes, that was absolutely a liner and not a cover, that was a typo, so.
Okay.
Okay.
And the cover, we have already ordered, or we haven't appropriated that yet?
I'd have to ask JR, but that's not.
And
near
we
the
were gonna
expense
wait
that
on spending for the liner until we knew the structural issue of the pool.
if we can figure out a way
Okay.
to determine that. But obviously, we couldn't do, nothing we can do with a liner until after the season, so.
right.
Okay, so Michelle, you said that, you could give me some figures on how much we've spent on the pool in 10 years compared to what we brought in for the pool?
well,
Or
the
how have you
loss,
done it?
the 10-year analysis for the loss based on what we've brought in, like for gate and all events or whatever for the pool, over 10 years, we've lost 127,000. And one of the things that I have learned lately is we budget $40,450 for the pool. Okay, well, and talking with JR, we had some issues where there's never enough money in the pool to run the pool. There's never. And I don't know what in years past was spent out of Park and Rec that was for the pool, but just in talking to him today, Park and Rec department paid for the water for the pool to fill it up for $3,000, and then they have to add water to it bi-weekly. But the initial fill up was $3,000. They had to buy the lifeguard uniforms of $760.
Do they have to pay sewer on that water?
Yes, they do.
I was thinking.
Did you explain to them the cost of to do irrigation? It looks like it would be cost effective.
They had to paint the deck, and that was $1,000 where they had bought paint. They had to
I kind of think that one might be part of the building, though.
I don't know. The electrical to the pavilion, the little pool pavilion, that was $700, and they had to buy acid for $2,000. So all that was $7,460 that came out of just the normal Park and Rec budget. That wasn't in the pool budget. And then right now, because chlorine tablets have gone up so much, they have to have 3 pallets a year to run the pool, and they cost $3,974, and we only have enough in the pool budget to buy 1 pallet.
Yeah, last year, the tub that I buy is
Yeah.
usually $80.
Yeah.
This year, it is $210.
Yeah.
So,
And-
okay,
And if I could just add on that, just to throw a thought in, and this is one of those, it's always been done this way. Obviously, it's too late this year. Next year, let's eliminate. There's absolutely no reason the swimming pool should have its own budget. Those should be line items within the Parks and Rec budget. I mean, we don't have a separate budget for Bird Field. We don't have it. So it's a Parks and Rec facility. If we had it in there, and she's right, I mean, the pool budget has gone up in very small increments over the years. This year particularly, when you're looking at 40% increases in chemicals and things like that. If it was under the Park and Rec budget, if a line item went over and JR said, okay, well, I've got more than I need in building maintenance, I could transfer that over to a line item. We can do that internally. Those things, that would be a lot better way to do that. It's always kind of frustrated me that there's a swimming pool budget, because
well,
it's.
It's one of those things where we're getting ready to expend an enormous amount of money on this pool. Probably, if I had to guess, it's gonna run $300,000 plus before it's over and said and done with.
It's always gonna be something.
It's never ending. And, you know, I just would like some, you know, I hope us as a council can determine if what we're putting in, if those funds could be better spent, on something that would have more community engagement, because it is just such a huge expense for not a lot of use.
You know, which will be a discussion
More
for,
people in it, like they buy one.
Exactly.
I think it'll be a discussion we'll have.
Is the
Down
Park and
the road.
Rec, are they still doing their survey and study that they appointed 3 months ago?
We know demand is,
We know demand is continuously going down and cost is going up. And that's a hard one to offset. You know, the biggest feedback we keep getting are seniors and the swim team. Beyond that, you know.
Okay, so that's really my point. If we were getting a lot of use out of the pool, if people were just lining up like I was a kid, when I was a kid, to get into that pool, when my parents dropped me off and I'd stay all day, it'd be one thing. But that is not happening. People are not lining up for that pool. And like you said, the most engagement we have is the senior swim in the morning and the swim team, and that's it. Which, you know, I'm glad we can provide that service, but it's at the expense of the city of Kingston taxpayer. And, you know, I feel like we just need to have a broader discussion about, that pool and its future, because this is only gonna get more expensive.
Well, and part of what will help is, you know, for a long time, you know, there was a tendency, and we saw that just, you know, with this list of water expenditures. You know, we put a pump in and it's not thought of again until it wears out. And so you're stuck 50 years later replacing it. You know, one of the things is we're working on our capital plans, and that's constantly evolving, and we're trying to tweak that, is trying to, as we do things, figure out the lifespan of them. So if we put in a liner, say for example, if we decide to do that, then we know, okay, in so many years we're going to have to address that again. But you know, we know, I mean, that pool's old and everything in it's old, and you know, we were able to get the controls working. We know it's going to need a new liner. We know this. It's just going to be something all the time.
Well, right, I think when we shut the pool down, we get to whatever structural issues and looked at by the engineers, we come back, we sit down, and we start talking about hard decisions.
Yeah, because none of that is in the budget.
Right.
And we can have figures on what we brought in this pool season.
Right, you'll
from the
have,
time it opened
right,
to the time it
information.
closed and what we spent.
Anything else you got
No,
on
I'm
the budget?
done.
Mr. Childs, do you have anything? Ms. Stockton, do you have anything?
I do not.
Leaving it up to you, Mr. Brown.
Very little. There's things that I bring up every year that I think need to be cut. I didn't mention it out loud this year. There's always $10,000 here.
Somewhere.
Somewhere and somewhere else and all that kind of stuff. And if the majority of this council wants to spend that money, then we'll spend it.
Is that all you got?
That's it.
That's all?
That's, Michelle, do you have anything else you want to talk about on the budget?
I really don't. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry.
Mr. Bond, do you have anything on the budget or anything else to talk about?
I have nothing else on the budget. One thing I was going to let you in on just real quick, just so you know, and it jogged my mind when we were talking about structural. We're in the process, we've actually set an appointment to have a structural engineer come in and look at the T-Dock.
Yeah, that's good.
And with that, with the 4th of July coming up, we want to make sure.
It don't fall in the river.
Yes, so we may be using that on the 4th and we may not, but just want to give you an update on that. So.
I will tell you, my first year as a council person, when I got to watch the fireworks from that T-Dock, my mother and I the whole time were like, it's like,
anybody got anything else for the work session?
I had two notes, and if you will indulge me.
Yes, yes.
One of them he touched on, I had a note about the T-Dot, that's in the capital deal.
Mhm.
You know, we don't need to decide we're gonna do this in the summertime, so it sounds like he's way ahead of us.
Yeah.
And the other thing deals with the state government. Did we ever find out whether or not that the governor or the higher-to-be politicians in Nashville, the tax-free deal, is that a hold harmless, did they put that hold harmless thing in there?
They-
Or are we gonna have a cut in revenue?
They claim it's hold harmless. I've never had anybody show me what they're basing that on. So I don't know, you know, if they're planning on taking that money from somewhere else and giving it to us, they haven't communicated that with us,
And
so.
y'all know what we're talking about,
Yes.
they're not gonna have sales tax.
For a month in July.
Now they're talking more because they got a $200-something billion surplus out there they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Well, they announced today it
I'm
was for
sorry,
a month,
For a month.
but sales tax
Still,
holiday.
that means that we don't get no sales tax for a month.
And they denied the vote that we had voted on for them to press to pass about giving us our cut of the sales tax back. They voted that down, so we are not going to be getting that money back.
Imagine that. You know, one other question we've had, and I would assume that the tax freeze on groceries, obviously the state sales tax would be easier for them to hold harmless because that's an overall calculation of tax collected in the state and divvied out. They could pull that, but what about our local sales
Right.
tax?
I think it continues,
Does it?
and the county tax continues. I think all they can do is the
It's
state,
just
Full state.
Yeah,
it's their money.
yeah, so, but
That's
no,
the reason I was
who
wondering if
knows?
it-
They
if
claim
they
it's gonna
spelled
be
it
hold
out.
harmless, but I guess we'll see when the tax checks come in.
Because now then, you know, the county budget, they're holding, you don't have to buy your license plates for a
Yeah.
year. That hurts the county
Yeah,
on
and
the
I just
budget.
paid for mine.
Yeah, well, you'll get it next year. All right, does anybody got anything else in the work session? Kelly, got anything? Michelle?
One last quick question, should be a quick answer. I was asked about the traffic situation in Kingston. How's the lot situation going on?
So,
Waiting on materials.
so the controls are up. Those are the boxes that everybody thinks are cameras.
Yeah.
The delay has been, we're putting new radars up to integrate with ancient controls in the boxes. And that will work. It won't work ideally, but they were going to have to order some parts to make those talk. As part of that conversation, Progression came to me and said, you're going to do this, and it's just going to be a matter of years, and you're going to have to replace all these controls in these boxes. He said, while you're doing it, why not put all new controls in the boxes too? So you've got a completely new system that'll work like it's designed to work. So he said, okay, so, we had 15,000 or whatever it was that was going to go toward those old controls. He said, rather than do that, if you want to replace them, I'll take that $15,000 and apply to it, and you all can pay the difference, which we've agreed to. It's still going to put us under budget for the project, but that's going to put everything's going to be new. So all those are being ordered now. He said everything is on the shelf. It should be a quick turnaround, so we're hoping within the next week or two, those will be in, and they'll come in and finish the installation, and so.
So by July 4th, we might have them.
We hope so, but I'd rather wait a little longer and have something new and it's gonna work as it's supposed to than.
They will tell them when the city manager told me.
Well, you can tell them, look up there, they're there.
Yeah, they're there.
I mean, the question he gave me, he said, would you want to, you've got brand new technology on the poles and you've got black and white TVs
Yeah, it
in
makes
here in the
sense.
boxes.
Yeah, I agree with
so.
you.
Yeah, good question, Jeff. Very good question. All right, now I'm gonna call this work session adjourned, and if anybody does have any issues, we'll go straight into the special call meeting. I'm gonna call a special call meeting to order. Since we've already did the invocation and pledge before, we'll go straight to call the roll, ma'am.
Councilmember Brown.
Present.
Councilmember Childs. Councilmember Griffin.
President.
Vice Mayor Humphries. Councilmember Stockton.
Present.
Councilmember Wright.
Present.
Present. Is there any citizens that wish to address the council in this special call meeting? Nothing on 5, nothing on unfinished business. We're going to new business. A, consideration to approve the first reading of ordinance 22060701, an ordinance of the city of Kingston, Tennessee, adopting the annual general fund operating budget for for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022 and ending June 30th, 2023. Do I hear a motion to pass this on first reading?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion from Ms. Wright, second by Mr. Griffiths. Ms. Wright, do you have anything else to
Nothing,
discuss? Mr. Griffiths, do you have anything to discuss?
No.
Council? Madam Clerk, call the roll on the first reading of the budget.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Childs,
Yes.
Councilmember Griffiths,
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Wright,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Aye. The other item on the agenda is consideration to approve the first reading of ordinance 22060702, an ordinance of the city of Kingston, Tennessee, adopting the annual water sewer fund operating budget and setting the rates and fees for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022 and ending June 30th, 2023. Do I hear a motion to accept the water budget?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion from Ms. Wright, second by Mr. Childs. Ms. Wright, any questions on the water budget?
Nothing, sir.
Nothing.
Mr. Childs, council, any questions on the water budget? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll on the first reading of the ordinance to pass the water budget.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Childs,
Yes.
Councilmember Griffiths,
Yes.
Councilmember Stockton,
Yes.
Councilmember Wright,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Aye. With nothing else on this special call meeting, this meeting is adjourned.